Two men would take the lives of the most vulnerable and weak in Kenya without fear or any empathy. Hi, welcome to Wolfness Investigations, and let's look into the cases of Philip Onyancha and Masten Wanjala, Kenya's most infamous serial killers. These two cases had me scratching my head with the question, are serial killers born or are they made? Born in 1978 at Kericho County, Philip Onyancha was a smart and friendly child. So no one thought that friendly child would grow up to be Kenya's most infamous serial killer. 2009 was the first time Kenyans had the name Onyancha. He was arrested after being linked to a kidnapping of a 9-year-old. But before we get into that, let's take a step back and look into how it began. After primary school, Onyancha joined Kenyatta High School, Mahiga, and this is where his story as a serial killer began. According to him, in Form 2, a female teacher, Elizabeth Wamboi, introduced him to a cult and Satanism. He would sneak into the teacher's house where they would talk and drink for hours, and this is how he was introduced and joined the cult. He claims that the whole school knew about Elizabeth's involvement with the cult but did nothing about it. In Form 3, he will be accused of essay, but due to lack of evidence, nothing was done about it and he was allowed to continue with his studies. After high school, he escaped to Nairobi when he was accused of defilement, and in Nairobi is where he got a job at G4S. While working at G4S, he had a voice telling him to go to Nyeri. This is where he took the life of his first victim. After taking the life of his first victim, he went back to Nairobi like nothing happened in Nyeri. And after some time, he stopped working for G4S and started working at Nairobi Water and Sewerage Company, Karen, still as a security guard. At Karen is where he was approached by a woman who asked for directions. He gave her the directions and offered to take her where she wanted to go. Unbeknown to her, she would never make it. He would attack, strangle her, and then dump her body in a pit latrine. Onyancha claimed that his powers helped him read people's minds and would control women after shaking hands with them. He continued to say that shaking hands was the hardest part, while killing was the easiest part. He claimed that he was essayed by a woman who was taking care of them while his parents were working. This made him believe that using normal channels while approaching a woman was not required. Force could also be used. And he indeed used force. He claimed that he blacked out while he was committing the murders and he was not himself. He did not know what was happening and would find himself lying next to his victims. In 2009, a 9-year-old's body was discovered in a forest at Lenana area. The boy was kidnapped and his parents were called by the kidnappers demanding a ransom of 30,000 Kenya shillings. The 30,000 was payment for the return of the boy, but sadly his body would be discovered and the number that made the call was traced back to Onyancha. Onyancha was arrested, and while being held for kidnapping, he decided to confess to the police about the killings. In his confession, he stated that he started killing in the year 1996 and he had taken 18 lives, including men and children. He claimed that his aim was 100 lives, as that was what the cult demanded from him. He killed them and drank their blood. He would later refute this, saying that he never drank anyone's blood. After the confession, he took the police to the places where he hid the bodies. Some of the bodies were retrieved by the police, others were not. He was sentenced to 12 years in prison for attempted R-word and kidnapping. While he was in prison, he was charged for 3 murders. Jacqueline Misoi was the first case that he was acquitted. The other 2 cases are still pending. Before the case began, an assessment was done on Onyancha, and the psychiatrist came to the conclusion that Onyancha suffers from narcissistic mental disorder, characterized with exaggerated sense of importance and preoccupation with fantasies of unlimited success, power, brilliance, and believed that he was a unique person. He also has unrealistic expectations in life and lacks empathy, but was considered fit to stand trial. Edward Kiplangat, Jacqueline's father, told the court that his daughter traveled home at Kericho County and told him that she had secured a job at Dubai. She was getting ready to travel and she was really excited about the opportunity. And on 27th May, she traveled back to Nairobi. A few days later, he received a call from the police informing him that his daughter was gone. She had unalived herself in her house. This was at Mount Kenya Flats. So he traveled to Nairobi with his family to talk to the police and understand what happened to his daughter, and also for the identification of the body. Mustandungu Gishu, who worked as a security guard at the flat, testified that Onyancha came from Jacqueline's house at 2 a.m. He told him to open the gate for him, and an hour later, Onyancha came back in a red vehicle with another man. They went back to Jacqueline's house, and after some time, they came back from the house carrying a black suitcase. The caretaker of the building, Evanson Maina, also testified and told the court that after Jacqueline came back from Kericho, she called him and gave him money. She requested him to go pay her rent, and he did so. When he came back to give her the receipt, he noticed that she was not alone. She was with a man who he identified as Onyancha. She asked him to come back the following day for the money to pay for her electricity bill. He did so. He decided to knock at her door, but she did not answer, so he decided to call her, but she did not pick his calls. He decided to come back the following day, maybe she was not around. He came back the following day. He did the same, but she did not open the door or pick up his phone call. But the following day, being a Sunday, he did not go to work. On Monday, he went back to Jacqueline's house and knocked, but when she did not answer, he grew worried. He called the landlord and told him about the situation. The landlord told him to go and report the matter to the police. At the same time, Jacqueline's stepbrother had tried calling her, but when she did not pick up, he decided to go to her place. He knocked, but she did not answer. That was when the stepbrother and the caretaker decided to report the matter to the police. The police went back to the flat with them, broke the padlock, and this is when they found her in the bathroom. It looked like she had unalived herself using a scarf and left a note behind, which she had written on the wall. They also noticed that a TV, a stereo, and a black suitcase were missing. After Onyancha had confessed he was linked to Jacqueline's death, he took the police to the building and Jacqueline's house where it had happened. Dr. Minda, who performed Jacqueline's autopsy, told the court that the deceased had marks on her neck, which were consistent with the scarf. The cause of death was asphyxiation, and there were no injuries to any of her other organs. He added that he could not tell if it was a murder or not. A confession was recorded, but the video and the transcript were inadmissible in court because the police did not follow the right procedure. This and the lack of sufficient evidence led him to be acquitted. As of now, Onyancha is still in prison waiting for the hearing of the other two cases. Let's wait and see what happens. This was a dark one for me, and what makes it more sad is that some of the victims have not yet been identified. Now on to our second case. Masten Wanjala was following the same path as Onyancha. Born in 2001 at Bungoma, no one thought he would follow such a dark path and hurt the most vulnerable members of the society: children. In 2021, two boys went missing and their families were called and asked for a ransom of 50,000 Kenya shillings. The families contacted the police, who traced the call back to Wanjala. He was arrested, and just like Onyancha, he decided to confess to the murders he had committed. He told the police that he had taken the lives of at least 10 boys at Nairobi and Western areas. The first victim was when Wanjala was 16, which was the same age as the victim. And according to his confession, he would pretend to be a coach, then lower the boys into an area where he would attack and kill them. He would also hold some of the victims for ransom. The autopsies done by the chief government pathologist, Dr. Odor, showed that some of the causes of death were strangulations and head injuries. But Dr. Odor and his team were not able to identify the causes of death of some of the kids. On July 14, 2021, Wanjala was charged with the murder of the boys, and he remained in jail for 3 months without being taken to court. That was until 13 October 2021 when he escaped from jail, hitched a ride on a trailer, and went back to his hometown Bungoma. He hid, but on 15th, while children were going to school, they noticed Wanjala and immediately told some adults, who immediately started looking for him. They found him in a house, dragged him out, and beat him to death. By the time the police got to the compound, he was already gone, and the family was called to identify the body, and that was that. The family of the victims felt cheated. They never got the answer to the question why he decided to take the lives of their innocent children. Wanjala took the lives of children who could not defend themselves, the vulnerable. I hope the innocent children's souls rest in eternal peace. These two cases were a bit hard for me because thinking that people like this exist in the world sends a shiver. But I always hope that the families of the victims and the victims' cry will be heard and justice will be served. They deserve to be remembered. So please, kindly do not forget the cry of the innocent. Thank you.